Chapter 1 Light as a Feather. High Wizard Vey levitated the giant cauldron into the center of the room, careful not to spill the boiling water inside it onto the floor. Flicking his shoulder-length black hair out of his eyes, he set it down and pulled out a handful of strange plants from the pockets of his sapphire-colored robes. As he sorted through them and separated them out into specific piles, Thordric, who was watching from behind, frowned slightly. He was quite the potion maker himself, and so knew some highly unusual plants, but he had never seen any of these ones before. One in particular he wasn't even sure was a plant. It looked as though it had been carved out of stone. Vey smiled as he saw Thordric staring. "It's been petrified," he said, handing the plant to him so he could have a closer look. "It's like a fossil, though I had to use magic to speed up the process. It has to be like that for the potion to work." He laughed and shook his head. "Honestly, you should have seen the time I used it fresh. It turned my hair and beard into feathers." Usually Thordric would have laughed too, but today all he managed was a weak smile. Vey raised his eyebrow. "So what exactly is this potion supposed to do? When you've got it right, I mean," Thordric said, avoiding Vey's gaze. Vey had been instructing him for 3 years now, ever since Thordric had become the youngest member of the Wizard Council at only 15. That was after Thordric had solved the mystery of the previous High Wizard's death, and Vey had taken his place. The Wizard Council had been very different back then, not just in the products it produced, but also its policies and prejudices too. Only full wizards, which meant those who had been born from a family with no previous wizards in them, could become members of the council. Half-wizards like Thordric and, unknown to everyone at the time, Vey had been looked down upon as having weak and dangerous magic. No one trusted them, and as Thordric had discovered, the previous High Wizard had wanted them all stamped out for good. Vey grinned, the movement making his short, tufted beard part down the middle. "It's supposed to create a feeling of weightlessness. I began developing it for Mother, actually, since she's starting to get arthritis. I thought it would help her move around more easily. If it works for her, I may even put it on our product line, so that all older people can use it." Thordric blinked. He had never thought of Lizzie, Vey's mother, as old. She'd been the one who had first taught him how to control his magic, though she had no magic herself. That was one of the unsolved mysteries of magic. There had never been a single woman who had been born with it in all the history of the land. Tor thought that was a terrible shame, for Lizzie would have made a wonderful job of it. "But Lizzie's not old enough to get arthritis," he objected. "Mother is very deceptive in her looks, Thordric. I assure you she is no less than 60. But arthritis does run in our family. It doesn't just affect the elderly, though. My grandmother developed it at the age of 35. By this time, Vey had carefully cut up the important parts of each plant and placed them into the cauldron, creating a greenish mixture, which stood bubbling away quite pleasantly. A light blue steam began to rise from it, as Vey stirred alternately clockwise and counterclockwise. That was the trick to potions. They all had such strict ways of stirring that Thordric thought he would never master some of the more advanced ones. Then again, as Vey always reminded him, he had never believed he would be able to master any of his magic. "It should be done in a moment," Vey said after about 20 minutes. "Would you help me drain it?" Only the liquid part of a potion was ever used, sort of like making tea, so all the bits of plant had to be sieved out before it was drinkable. Thordric picked up a large round mat of weaved rushes and put it over the cauldron.